y'all want to talk about?
Jack, sure.
Thank you.
Well, you might as well start with injuries and.
Oh, jeez.
Got to ask.
Are you serious? I mean, it's like a race between you two.
Mitch would have asked if I hadn't. Thank you.
I guarantee you can answer that question. I'm going to give you an opportunity.
Day to day.
For everybody, for the exception
Of Brendan.
of Brendan, who
Surgery.
is having surgery.
Yep.
Unfortunate for him. I will comment on him. I mean, it obviously 2 years in a row. Got 4 games in this year where he didn't get 4 games in last year. Was probably our most solid special teams player at this point. Seems to be in good spirits. It's going to be a 6-month deal and should be ready for spring football. Like I've said 100 different times, I mean, injuries are the football. There's risk. There's short-term risk and long-term risk. If you're not willing to accept that risk, then you don't play. So, I really liked what I saw out of him for 4 games. I hope, he seems to be in good spirits and want him to hang in there and get it fixed, and hopefully it doesn't happen to him again. He did make a sly comment. He was curious if anybody has played football while possessing their doctorate degree. He's never had a B. I mean, if anybody could do it, it'd be him. So it's unfortunate we lost him. You gain a couple back, you lose a couple. That's just part of the game. All the rest of them I anticipate to be 100% here in about 12 days.
Would he qualify for a redshirt?
I believe so. I believe the rule says 2 season-ending injuries in a row gives you the option of a 6th. I mean, like I said, that's a long ways down the road, right? So we're not going to worry about that now. I'm glad he's a good kid. He's 4.0 student and did a really good job for us. Played more snaps than anybody up until the point he got hurt on special teams. So I don't want to sit here and talk about injuries the whole day, but I do appreciate him and sympathize with what he's going through based on 2 years in a row for a good player. I mean, he wasn't quite the difference maker that David Long or Drayvon or Carl or some things that have happened here over the last 3 years, but you try to have all your bullets in the holster, in the gun, so to speak, when you're trying to go play, Big 12 football. So we'll be closer to that, for moving forward for TCU than we have been here for the previous 4 games.
What's the plan now behind Al-Rashid? Could you slide in if you need somebody to play in the middle?
Yeah, we got some bodies in there. That's why we practice. That's looking forward to. We're gonna kind of shuffle some things around on defense. Getting David back, getting Toyas back, getting Kaiser back. We'll be able to shuffle some things around to see what the best lineup is. So we've got to practice in order to figure that out.
When David does come back, what is the plan? I mean, can he go 80 snaps, or do you have to limit?
That's why we practice. Our medical staff has done a really good job of rehabbing these guys and getting them ready to go. So here moving forward, I don't want to talk about it. Here moving forward, we're going to line up these guys. I told you who's out, and all the rest of them have been cleared. So we're going to go practice. So in my mind, they look good to play. That's where we're at. And we're as healthy right now as we've been all year. End of discussion.
Tony Gibson said afterward he was just concerned about the defensive line play initially. Didn't feel like they got off blocks. Did you feel the same after the review?
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Now, we were happy with Lamont. He looked different than the rest of them out there. Which is why he was the player of the game. I'm glad we had one of them that, that filled gaps and got off blocks and made some plays. I mean, he had 4 tackles, which there's been plenty of games where the nose guard did not get 4 tackles. And, we've never played 3 nose tackles either. There's been a lot of times that since I've been here, we've played, 1.1 nose tackles throughout the course of 70, 80 snaps and didn't have 4 tackles. So he's disruptive and active, uses his hands well. I don't know how many snaps he got. It wasn't a ton, but had 4 tackles, one of them being a sack, and then getting to the quarterback and making that play. That was legit play, So good for him. He'll probably be playing more.
Not to put on one person, but how much did he have to do with defending the run better through the middle as the game went on?
Yeah, he helps. When you get off blocks and make tackles, that's a lot better than getting drove back. Not getting off blocks, so. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to getting out and practicing. We're going to go through some run game stuff, and we need to do a better job. I thought we ran the ball pretty good, but we need to do a better job getting off blocks and holding our gaps. And if you don't get off blocks and make the tackle as D lineman, you guys know in this defense, you better occupy a couple of people in there and free up linebackers to make plays. So I think we know how to coach this defense, and we've been really good against the run. So we're going to probably keep coaching it the way we've been doing it. And our job as coaches is to practice and get these guys better and play people that we feel are the best guys for the roles that we're asking them to do. You develop them, put them in the right places, and get them ready to go. And that's what we're going to do moving forward.
The flip side, it seemed like you liked the line play just based around the release of the Kansas players of the game. What did you like about the offense?
The best part of Kansas's team, and it was not even close, was their D-line. They have good players on their D-line. And our O-line kind of was tired of hearing about it and stepped up to the plate and played pretty good, in my opinion. I mean, we had one sack, which is the second play of the game, where Will rolled out of there. Should have been an easy completion. They played it pretty good, but I thought the pressure was limited. I think Will does a really good job of feeling pressure and getting out of bad situations. With that said, I thought we pass protected pretty good, and I thought we ran block pretty good as well against a decent front. So you have a couple of 100-yard rushers. That's not just 25 and 4 being good players, which they are, but we had some space in there as well. We still need depth. Getting Grant back is important. Getting Butch Grossi ready to play is important. Still trying to develop Wickline, still trying to develop Hardy. So we got some guys to work with here this week to try to get a little bit better.
Dana, how do you keep Justin running 18, 19 carries, but also try to not wear him out so in game 10, 11, and 12 he's used up? What's sort of your thought?
Keep doing what we're doing. Part of it's on him to continue to do what he's done, not just during practice or in games, but, that's everything, reduce distractions, and you get into and this is not just for him, it's for a lot of our guys, throughout the course of the season. It's a long season. Don't let your body deteriorate. Don't quit feeding it the right way. You got to sleep the right way. You got to lift the right way. Mike does such a good job downstairs. Our administration's, been good as far as getting us what we need. Our medical care is good. There's a lot of talk about recovery, and more so than at any point in the history of football. There's more available for these guys to be able to do the right thing to keep their bodies sharp. We have all that available. At the end of the day, they got to do it. So this is the first time this has ever been available to Justin. So he's got to keep doing that. From a coaching perspective, we haven't had to give it to them 25 times because 4 can go in there and play and 32 can go in there and play. So keeping those guys healthy is important too. We've got to our third and fourth back a lot here over the last couple of years. It's going to get hard moving forward. We gotta hope for the best.
You tried that cryo machine yet?
I've been in it a couple times. It's good for old fat guys. It speeds your metabolism up.
Yes.
I know. I've been in it a few times. It's good stuff, and the players like it. It's quicker than sitting in a cold tub for 15, 20 minutes. That starts to hurt a little bit, or at least it hurts until it's numb. So the technology's good. And a lot of our guys like sitting in that thing. But, yeah, I've got in. I was curious about it for one, and then started out because I'm not sore. You're not going to get sore walking around the block. But even with that, it does speed metabolism up, which increases blood flow, which if you are sore and beat up, it helps heal you. So it's good stuff.
And with all this technology that's now available, do you sometimes wonder how the guys 30 years ago were so good? I mean, and they were. I mean, it was.
I wonder how they did it.
Is performance getting better, or is it?
Yeah, with the leather helmets.
Even after that, I mean, but maybe.
Well, I don't want to get into a CTE discussion, but it's changed. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it. I think the biggest difference is how you practice now compared to how you used to practice. Days of being out there for 3 hours are long gone, that's for sure. And how did we used to practice with not being able to drink water and you sit there and you do inside drill for 45 minutes? We probably get more reps in a 10-minute inside period now than we did 20 years ago in a 30-minute inside period. That's always been a fun discussion. So me growing up, we'd run a play and we'd get in the huddle and the coach would yell at us for about 45 seconds or 3 minutes, and then we'd call another play and you'd run it and then you'd get in the huddle and you'd sit there and talk about it for 2-3 minutes. How you practice is a lot different, but yeah, it's a little different for sure.
Will mentioned working on sliding in practice. How do you strike that balance between being a football player and a competitor and preserving your quarterback? How do you go about that? Help along.
He gets it. I guess I got to bring Maisie over here to teach him how to slide. I hadn't played baseball in a long time. I haven't attempted to slide in probably 20-some years. I don't view it as something that's really hard.
There is a art to that.
Evidently, it's hard because he's bad at it. Step one is you nailed it. He's competitive, so he's always trying to get an extra yard. And I'm like, well, if you've already got the first down, who cares about a yard? If you got to strain for the extra yard to get the first down, sometimes that's important, sometimes it's not. If it's at the end of the game, if it's fourth down, yeah, by all means, do what you got to do to keep it alive. But like he did against Virginia Tech, he was throwing his body all over the place. Well, he kind of had to in that situation, But in some of these situations I've looked at over the last 3 weeks, he does such a good job in the pocket, and he feels it, and he's smart about it, and he's got great ball security, and he gets out of there, and it looks good in the certain situations. Well, the 1st and 10, I'm okay with the 2nd and 1, as opposed to getting hit or trying to juke somebody. I'm like, dude, you don't have moves, so you're not going to juke people. And then the other part of that is one, preserving health, but 2, preserving the ball too. That ball is not in a good place once he's on the move. Fumbled one, it went out of bounds, luckily. We got some fun drills we're going to do out there today. I'll be able to answer that question better after we do these drills, because I haven't taught it. To me, it's pretty easy. Get down.
I think of the two quarterbacks that you got hurt, Skyler and Clint were both out of the pocket going downfield. Skyler with his wrist and Clint TCU. So,
yeah, he got beheaded against TCU. Still mad about that non-call. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't care. You know, Skyler was a really good running quarterback, and Will does as good as I've ever seen in the pocket of knowing pressure and getting out of that. I mean, that's a gift that you can't coach. You can work on it, but and get guys probably better at it, but that's a gift that he has, which is going to be very beneficial for us moving forward. But just, when you get out, you got to be more smart. You can't take that hit. That puts your body and this team in harm's way. So I know you wrote an article on it, and we've addressed it, and we're going to work on it and try to get better at it.
And I don't know if you saw Harbaugh talked about opponents' locker rooms and all that, and just wondering if what you've run across.
Yeah, the one in Kansas didn't smell very well. I think it's been pretty good. When we go to TCU, it's probably the nicest one I've ever seen. But they just redid their stuff, and it's unbelievable. It's surprising the Redskins one was bad. The visiting locker room for the Redskins was bad. That was not good. Baylor's is good. Texas's is adequate. Texas probably the most chopped up. You can't, this is like as big of an area as I have to address the whole team, which they don't care about that. The sanitary aspect of it's a problem. And I'm sure it's in, Kansas announced that $350 million football renovation to their stuff. I'm sure their visitor locker room is going to get addressed. It was hot in there, too. It was stunk. It was bad.
Should there be standards?
You'd think so. I mean, that's and I think he nailed it. I mean, me complaining about it, which I'm not, just part of the deal. I would never complain about that. That's not my place. It's an administrative deal. Administration and Big 12 offices and Big 10 offices, I'm sure they're going to do something about it. But I got other things to worry about. To me, I mean, that's what a visitor's locker room should be, shouldn't it? Treat the visitor like crap. Make it hard on them. No air conditioning. No stalls on the toilets. That makes me chuckle.
As different as you play defense than most teams, what can you take from film? For example, TCU, they played Oklahoma State last, and your defenses are, I presume, so different that can you take much from that? Or
oh yeah, yeah. Coverages are coverages. Probably the biggest difference with what we do is just how we fill gaps up front differently than other people. So, I mean, you try to, and you do the same thing on offense, you do the same thing on special teams. You try to get opponents that somewhat resemble, the more they resemble it, the better it is, but, how they attack the opponent is really pretty important, and, how you did specific blitzes with pressure or coverage or leverage or, looking for matchups. You can get that done with different types of schemes. So, it can be non-existent, and you can throw the whole film out too. So you just got to kind of look at it, engage it, and see what you think, and practice, and come up with a plan and move forward.
In recruiting this week, obviously an emphasis. Your thoughts on what you need this year, what your recruiting looking like? Yeah,
I mean, it's going pretty good, I think. we're evaluating a lot of guys right now. We're going to send all 10 coaches out, and probably the biggest area of what we're doing right now this weekend is probably going and seeing guys that we've got committed or trying to get committed. I mean, that's what we're focusing on right now. We're still evaluating a lot of guys, recruiting a lot of guys. Official visits are going to start taking place here pretty quick. We're going to have to deal with in-season visits more moving forward, here in October and November than we ever have, just because of the early signing period. We still got 2 weeks in December that we can visit guys prior to that early signing period. I'd prefer that, but if specific guys, don't have a Friday night game and they want to come on an official visit to see a home game, then we'll do that. What's going to be interesting is, I think, and I'm hesitating a little bit on that just because I think you keep doing what you've been doing, because we've had some success recruiting, and see what you get with that early signing period, because now you have an opportunity to be able to recalibrate and reevaluate what you need going into that January signing period, recruiting period, and all that. So I'm comfortable with where we're at with the numbers we got and who we got on board and where we're at. Got to keep recruiting them. There's a bunch of them out there that aren't committed that we're recruiting that we're going to continue to do. And then you got to reevaluate where you're at after that signing period to fill out the class. We got 25 this year. In the past, we've had upwards of about 32. But we signed some transfers this past summer that knocked out some of those numbers. So not looking for as many as we have in the past. This year, anyway.
With that clock speeding up, does that impact your evaluation or your decision making for this December class?
Probably decision making, and I don't think it affects this one. I think it'd affect next one. What's really going to be interesting is the next year's class. This year's class seems very normal to me, with the opportunity to be able to end it in December. I think the next one, the 19 class, that's going to get interested as to how you evaluate them, when you evaluate them, and when you got to make decisions on them, because they can start taking visits, and which to me is absurd, but they can start taking visits in April, May, June, which means you got to make decisions really before spring practice, before their spring academic semester is over. To me, that's ridiculous. They increase the academic requirements, and they decrease the amount of time you can evaluate them academically. I think there's going to be issues with that. So I'm curious to see how all that's going to play out. But from an 18 class perspective, I haven't noticed any difference whatsoever. Maybe a few more official visits here moving forward in October and November.
In that scenario, wouldn't the academic at-risk guys or borderline guys just get pushed
They get
to the
pushed back, and then I think you're going to have some mid-majors or some, guys that normally wouldn't be in the game with that kid. I think you're going to see some of those guys take chances on guys. I don't view us as that because I'm not going to jeopardize an initial on a guy that's not academically qualified. So we'll just recruit somebody else. If you sign that kid and he doesn't make it, you lose that number. I'm not prepared. I mean, we've used that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, every single initial we've had since I've been here. We've used every one. I think you have to keep your numbers up. So I'm not going to take a chance on a couple of guys that are not quite there yet academically. I'm not going to bring those guys in May and try to sign them. I'm not going to do that.